I grew up very, very poor. We didn't have a lot of money, and my parents were always able to provide, but there was never anything left. Right? We at the end of the month we always ate we called it goulash. We didn't know, we liked it. We thought as kids we thought it was great, but what it was my dad hadn't made enough money that month, and so we were basically out of food, and so she would just go through the cupboards and take anything she could think of and put into a casserole, right? So we called it goulash, and it was good. She always had ability to make it good, but so that was the level. We always ate like I what we had. We always had a place to stay. Sometimes it was trailer parks. Sometimes it was homes. Like there were times when we had a little bit more, but I never had. There was never anything extra. So there was something that was instilled in me from when I was really young, which was if you want it, you got to work for it, right? Nothing is gonna in this life will ever be given to you. Because we had friends that, I had friends that were like, one of my friends, his name was Dylan. I still remember him. His dad was a doctor, and he was like the richest person I ever could imagine, right? I mean, I remember him having this big old house, and we would go over to his house, and there's always these snacks, and you could get cookies and crackers and all. I mean, you open for a kid, right? This was like the
Yeah,
greatest,
the
and I'm like
Charlie and the
so
Chocolate
jealous.
Factory was like going to the Wonka factory.
Oh, totally was 100%. Yeah, I might have as well called him Willy Wonka for sure, right? And so I wanted those things. Like I saw that and I wanted that, but my mom could and my dad they could never provide it. And so it was like, if you want it, go work for it. And so at 10 years old, I really started this journey of entrepreneurship, not knowing that's really what I was doing, but I went out, and which is crazy because as an adult, I went at 10 years old. I did one of the hardest things people ever do in sales, which is knocking doors, right? And I went and did that at 10 years old to get lawn mowing jobs, right? And I would go around my neighborhood at first, and I would just knock on doors, and I'd charge them $5 to mow their lawn. And I ended up getting enough clients in the neighborhood that I was too busy to do all of them. Like I didn't have enough hours in the day. I mean, I ended up mowing lawns right when I get home from school every single day, Monday through Friday, and then I was mowing all day Saturday, and then Sunday was like my only day off. And I ended up hiring my friends to mow these lawns, and I would pay them $4 to mow the lawn, and I would keep one. So at a young age,
Not
I mean,
bad.
it's crazy. I just thought it was like, well, this will work. I didn't think it was actually that cool, right? I just was like, this is awesome because I'm making money. And I
Yeah.
remember I was pulling in about, this is, mind you, this is 10 years old. I'm making about $250, $300 a month on average at 10, right? And this is so I could buy whatever I wanted, man. It became, dude, I was at the card store as well. So I learned really quick that if I want it, I got to go after it, and no one is going to give it to me. And if I want those finer things in life, I'm the one responsible for it. So that lesson at a very young age just drove me, and it just drove me to succeed. Like I was like, I'm not going to, I won't settle because I know I can do it, right? And all my friends would be around, and they were waiting for me to give them a job. Like it became this crazy thing as a young kid.
So you
Grow
basically,
up.
it's like this. It was a very empowering discovery that everything that you wanted was in your hands, and you were
Mhm.
kind of like young and full of energy and full of like zest and wanted to, like, you had that so clear in your mind, right? Because that
Yep.
is something that even myself was a realization that I have, because I had a business, and my business partner stole everything from me. And it's like we get stuck in the rut of thinking like somehow things are going to magically happen or something, and
No.
it's like it's not. Like, it's up to you.
No.
So
Yeah, no one is coming to save you, and I think
no.
that's one. I think that's a trap we all get stuck into. Two
Yes.
traps. That's one of them, that we think someone's coming behind us to save us. Like, and when we're the victim to it, like we don't take accountability for our role in it. Even like your situation, right? Your partner embezzles from you. That's a terrible situation, but at the end of the day, you have to then figure out, okay, how do I move forward from this? Like, what do I do to rebuild, taking accountability for your part in it, because that's where you actually become, right? So that's like the first side of it is that, and then the other side, once you've taken accountability and you realize you're the one in control and no one is actually coming to save you, is to also realize that it's not as hard as you think it is to get there. You just have to do the work. Like, you just have to do it. I saw this meme yesterday, or the day before. It was hilarious because it shows this picture, and on the outside of the book it says how to become a millionaire, and then another picture shows him opening the book, and on the inside it says work, and then the third picture is the guy throwing the book down crying
Okay.
because he wanted it to be some simple fix or something, but Here's where it went crazy for me though.
Hmm.
I started in my early 20s. I started as a mortgage broker, just working for somebody, and I remember the ceilings. I remember the first time I made $10,000, and it took me a while. It took me like 6 months. There was about 3 or 4 months of me totally broke. I was on state assistance. Like I was on welfare to pay for groceries. I had one son. I was married, and I'd left a job that I had, and I was just it was like I was all in to figure this out, and I finally did. I got my first check, and then I remember about 6 months in, I made $10,000, and that was like the craziest moment because I thought that was impossible. I really did at that time, and I knew people could do it, but for me, it was like I didn't really believe I could do it. Like I
Yeah,
knew there were millionaires, I knew people were doing this, but like me, 10,000 a month, that is
that's
ridiculous. And this is
wow.
back when I was in my early 20s. I was like 21, I might have been 20 when this was all going down. So, and I'm 40, 43, almost 44. And so, that's 24 years ago, basically. So money went a whole lot further. Let's just put it that way, right? So
Yeah,
10,000 a month back then is probably more equivalent to about 20 or 25,000 a month now.
yeah.
And so it was a lot of money. I mean, I was paying for everything. I mean, and it just grew from there. And it just, I almost got like this problem as I got like addicted to it. I got addicted to the money in a
To making the
negative way.
money or to
Yeah.
like, hmm,
Yeah, and so it started to define who I was, and it started to become the only pursuit, right? And I was married. I had a son, and I called myself a man of God, and there was all these things about me, but the money became the only thing I cared about. And in early 20s, man, it was like winning the lottery. And so I just kept making moves, and then we ended up starting our own brokerage shop, and then we ended up starting our own bank. It was called Meridius Capital, and my
bank.
brother and I actually partnered with it, and we were literally wholesaling loans, right? So we would sell mortgages and we would wholesale them and sell them to Wall Street, and that's where the real money came. We had sales floors of tons of sales agents, and we were spending six figures a month in advertising to pull money in to then sell what we're doing. I mean, it was a big operation. We were in Las Vegas, Nevada at the time, and I remember a very distinct moment where I'm sitting. It was probably 10 p.m. and I had arrived. I mean, I had pulled up my Wells Fargo app. No, not we didn't have apps back then. Shit, we were barely. I don't even think I had a smartphone. But my Wells Fargo laptop, on the computer, the
Yeah.
website, and and I was a millionaire. And I'm sitting there, and I'm in my early 20s, and I'm just like, holy crap! And I just like wanted to celebrate. I didn't know what to do. It was like 10 o'clock at night. No one else was in the office. Everybody gone home. I was always the first one in, last one to leave, always. And I just was like, well, I'm going to take a minute for myself. I went out and jumped in my brand new car. I had a brand new BMW. I drove it to this lookout spot that overlooks the Las Vegas Strip, and this iconic one that you would see in any picture. It's where they take those photos from when you see the strip, and it's like all beautiful. And so I'm sitting there. It's nighttime, right? So it's all lit up, looks amazing. I'm proud of myself as I'm driving up there, and I get up to this lookout point, sit there, and I overlook the strip. And what happened was not what I expected. I expected. I don't know what I expected, honestly. But what happened was definitely not what I thought would happen, and I just had this feeling of dread, this feeling of like a letdown, like a huge letdown. Like if you were a kid excited to go to Disneyland and you get to Disneyland and you realize Disneyland is like puppets and it's not real. That's what it felt like. It was like everything had been built to this moment because all I had been doing is going after this, right? And from the outside looking at my life, anyone would have said, "Oh man, he must be so happy. Everything must be going so well for him. He's got a lot of money. He's got cars. He's got a home. He's got a wife. He's got a son. He dresses nice. He acts nice. And from the facade that I put onto the world, that's how it was. And in that moment, it was kind of the first moment of like clarity where I realized I'm not actually happy. Like I didn't actually want it. I didn't actually like it. So that was really the first rise of my empire, and I lost it all within the next 2 years. Everything,
And
like everything.
but you lost it. Can you tell us a little bit about how that happened, or
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So I, I, from that moment, that night, I left, went back home, and I didn't know what else to do. So I just kept doing what I'd been doing. Right. And I received a phone call about 2 months later from my wife. I was out of town on a business trip, and she just calls and says something's wrong with Micah. So in that time, we'd had another son. He was a little baby, and he was fine. And then she just said something was wrong, and so I rushed back from the the conference that I was at down in Phoenix, came back. They had actually already admitted him in a hospital because they'd gone in. They thought he had RSV, which is a respiratory disease. But they can fix it. It's not a problem. You just give him antibiotics or whatever. It's kind of an infection. And then they started running blood work tests, things like they do inside of any standard thing that doctors do. But all his blood works keep coming back really weird. Platelet counts are way off. His blood counts are way off. His white cells, red cells, and so they're running these tests, but it's not coming up cancer. It's not. They can't figure out what it is. He was in 7 different hospitals in Las Vegas because they kept transferring him to different hospitals because the hospitals literally couldn't figure it out. And finally, we got transferred to Primary Children's in Utah because it's one of the on the West Coast. It's the premier #1 pediatric hospital in the country. There's one on the West Coast. There's another one on the East Coast. But so we went there. We stayed in the Ronald McDonald House. He was there for about 2 months. Well, he's there for about a month, and then they finally diagnosed him. So this whole ordeal was about 3 months. So he's about 9 months old at the time, and they finally diagnosed him with his disorder, which was called Gaucher type 2. And the most horrific part of it is his life expectancy was 2 years. Right? That was the longest he was ever going to live with the disease that he had. It was literally the odds of him having were like 1 in a million. So when he got sick, I started just shutting down. And then when he got diagnosed to be terminal, I don't know. He became my whole world, right? I spent every single moment with my son because I just never knew. I mean, it was the hardest moments to be in when you know tomorrow he may not be here. Like today is all this. It puts you in this place of presence. And I saw so intensely that everything I had been doing to go after money was such a waste. And it's not that money was a waste, and I've learned that now. But at the time, that because that was my only focus, I didn't have a relationship with my older son. My wife and I's relationship was on the fritz. And then my son's sick, and then he passed away 2 months after he was diagnosed. So the whole ordeal to diagnose him was about 5 months, and then once we actually knew he was terminal, he only made it. So he was 11 months old, almost. It was actually a week before his first birthday, which was tough, man. We already had invitations sent out for his birthday. We had it was pretty rough. It was pretty rough, and I just dove off the deep end, man. We had a lot of money still, and I just spent money like I had millions coming in. I spent it like it was coming in, but nothing was coming in because I wasn't working. My office completely shut down. I quit paying employees because we just shut everything down. So everybody had to go find a new job, and I had no business, but I didn't know what else to do, so I just spent everything. Right? My lifestyle didn't change until I had to change. My wife at the time, she couldn't deal with the death, no better than I could, and she dove off the deep end. We ended up just almost amicably being like, we're done. Like, I don't want to be married to you. She's like, I don't want to be married to you either. Like, cool, let's just call it out. Like, no lawyers got involved, anything. We just separated, and I said, I'll take all the debt. You just go. And so she left. She actually moved all the way to Florida, far away she could get from any of what happened. And, dude, I just found myself in the bottom of a rum bottle for a long time. Time. It hit the pit when I was living. I ended up in my parents' basement, and I had nothing. I'd lost everything. I'd lost my job. My career, my company was gone. I had no money. I had literally nothing. I was working at the Walmart distribution center to try to make ends meet. Right. So that was like my job. I was working on weekends, and I would go into the freezer and pick orders. And I had nothing. My wife was gone. She was gone. I had nothing. My son was dead. Like, I just had nothing, and I didn't know how to function. And so I just, to try to get relief, I didn't know where to find it. And I thought I would find it in alcohol. And I did, because it would give me temporary relief. Yep. And that went on for years. And I jumped from job to job to job. But then there came this one moment, kind of another clarity moment, like I had when I had arrived as this millionaire. I had this moment where obviously I was drunk, because I was drunk all the time. But it was like God came in and showed me what my life was actually like. So he showed it to me, and I saw it. I saw where I was at. I saw how terrible it was. I saw where I was going. I saw that I would be dead. And at this point, I'm about 30 years old. I would be dead within a few years. And I knew there was like, so when he showed me that, I saw it so clear. It was the weirdest thing. It was the weirdest moment.
It was like a vision. It was like a, what was it? Or
Yeah, it was, but I didn't see it, but I just, it was like I had a knowing. I just sat there and it was like I could see my life right now, like for what it was.
yeah, you had like a download, like I just had all that kind of
Yeah.
knowledge, just boom. Yeah, I
Yeah,
know
it
what you
hit
mean.
me like, and I think that's what happened because I was in the pit and I was at the bottom. When people talk about rock bottom, what is that? How far do you have to go? And people were always trying to help me and all this, and I was like, I don't need help. I'm good, right? I'm still trying to put on a front, but I'd hit rock bottom. I'd hit the place of there was no deeper for me to go. And I, when it was so tough because I remember having the fancy cars and the nice house, and I remember that life, and I remember what it felt like to have that life. And now I couldn't even afford my own apartment. I couldn't afford anything. I didn't even have a vehicle, for heaven's sakes. I borrowed my parents. They had an old Dodge, this green Dodge truck was all I drove. And going from that to having brand new high performance Mercedes, BMW, like it was just this, yeah, it was crazy. But when that clarity came, I knew I couldn't stay there. Like that was like, for me, I was like, I can't keep doing this. There's more for me. And so at the same time receiving the clarity, I also had like this impression put on me, another kind of download where it was like, you're meant for greatness. Now go.
Wow.
And it just, like, I get emotional even talking to people about it because of what it was in that moment for me. And everything shifted. It just shifted for me. And I went to war. It's the only way I can describe it. I've had several moments in my life that I've declared war. And it's not war on the world. It's not war on somebody else. It's not war on people. It was war on me. Right? It was war right here. Knowing that, okay, there's a way to live this life to truly have it all. Not just have money, but to have money, have a marriage, have connection to family, have a connection to God, and to truly feel like I walk and talk with Him, and to have a body that I take care of that feels like weaponized, that I'm powerful and I'm strong and I feel good and I look good and I'm healthy, and like all of these things I knew there had to be, because I'd met a lot of people that when I was rising up financially, who yeah, they made money, they cheated on their wife multiple times, they had no relationship with their children, just like me, right? They don't even know the word God. They're like, yeah, there's no God, it's just me. Like, and I also met other people who couldn't make money to save their life, but they had really great relationships, but they're always struggling financially. And I was just like, there has to be a way to blend the two. Like there has to be, there just has to be. And that's the war I declared. So it sounds kind of arrogant in some ways to say, the goal is to have it all. Because in one respect, that like, what, you don't need it all. But when I say it, the way I frame it is to have it all in all of your life, like to literally just be like fulfilled and happy and content and grow and expand in all areas, not just one. Like, don't be the gym rat guy who just goes and gets shredded but has no money and no relationship, and don't be the guy that makes money and is 50 pounds overweight. Like, because all of those just show a level of self-discipline and self-mastery that doesn't exist. Right? It's like you're letting yourself off the hook over here so that you can feel better about yourself there. I mean, it's a crazy little circle. It's a crazy circle to go there.
Yeah, I'm definitely on the latter side where I was focused too much on money and completely like disregarded my whole life because I was like watching all these videos and like you gotta work this, like there's a lot of bad information from YouTube where it's like no balance, this and that. Because I also thought that the idea of balance, I don't know, I don't know. I have thoughts about if how it can be interpreted in the wrong way, but what you're saying is really like how to have it all. You mean how to have a complete, fulfilled. That's not, your life is not lacking in any area. That's
Yep.
what you mean. There's no lack.
Yep.
It's not
Yep.
that you're like the billionaire. It's that
100%.
there's no lack in any area that's important to you.
And if there is a lack in that area, you have a way to focus on that area to rise it up, because you're not going to equally rise, right? You build yourself just like you build anything. Like, even if you're building a house, you can't build it all at the exact same time, right? You build it in steps and modules, but you build it all up as a unit and you just work on the thing that needs the most work inside. And that's what I learned. And it took me years. years. And when I started back in as an entrepreneur, like I knew I was going to hunt that down. And the most wild thing, and this is really what I train entrepreneurs with right now, is to make more money, you got to stop focusing on making more money. Like, if all I do is focus on making more money, I'm a used car salesman. I don't actually care about creating value for you. I don't actually care about finding fulfillment in my purpose. What I care about is just seeing if I can get money from you. Right. And in that space, that frame, man, you're a used car salesman. You use manipulation, you use force. Can it work? That's the problem, bro. All those YouTube videos you saw, they work, but you lose everything else.
Yeah.
Like, I can't tell you how many of my clients come to me and they're on their third marriage, and they're multimillionaires, and they're on their third marriage, fourth marriage, and they are just a wreck. They hate their life. They're unfulfilled. They have Ferraris, Lamborghinis, and $20 million homes, and they hate everything about their life. They would trade all of it. They would throw it into the dumpster if they could figure out how on earth can they just connect with a woman. Or how do they rebuild the relationship with their 25-year-old adult son or daughter who hates them, who throws the middle finger in the air.
Yeah.
Right? It's rough.
And I want to get into the practical side so the listeners can get like a few actionable things, because it's one of those things that I want. What are the steps? You've had like, so many clients. What are like maybe the things that you see that everybody or a lot of people have that are like little things that you have been able to give them, or tips that have you seen the most change or have helped them the most?
Yeah. I'm gonna do something odd, so hopefully you're all right with this.
Yeah.
It did start raining just now, so I don't know if you can hear it.
Yeah.
It's probably a little loud, and I just unplugged my light. Hold on.
No worries.
Don't worry, we're gonna get this handled. I promise.
It's okay.
So this is how you know it's real, raw, and authentic, right?
Yeah, no worries.
We'll do it this style. So I just knew it was. I've got the roof on my lanai is made of a hard plastic, so the sun gets through, which is super cool. Love it, but it also is loud if it starts raining. So
it's a nice house. You got a piano, you got a chess set.
Yeah, there's the grand
Christ,
over
man.
there. Yeah, you know what's crazy about living in Hawaii? It's real hard to keep things nice because it's so humid. So everything gets humid and gets ruined, especially electronic stuff. The piano, right now the piano has 2 dead keys because it literally the humidity just ruins things. It's wild. I didn't expect that till we got here, and I'm like, okay. Turns out that's a thing.
Yeah.
So to the tactics, man, the practical application, and this is what I built, man. This is what I tried to figure out, and I wasn't building this to try to help anyone. I was literally just trying to figure out, how do I make my life work? Like, it has to work. I refuse. And I remember I wasn't going to get married again because I was like, I don't know how to make a marriage work. So I'm not going to get married because why? Why would I do it? I'm not going to put myself in that place. Like, I started labeling myself like the eternal bachelor, right? I would meet women and I would tell them, like, just so you know, this relationship will never go anywhere, ever. And a lot of women were okay with it. They're like, oh, that's great. Right, I had a lot of my friends coined me the first date king, right? Because I would never take women on a second date because I knew in a first date there's no way we could really connect, right? There's no, emotionally, energetically, it's not going to happen, right? So I would never. But second date, once and third date, oh, good night, right? So I would never. So there's a lot of my life that I was like, if I can't figure it out, then I'm not going to do it. Like I'm not put myself in that space. So I just started slowly. Building a process, and it's what I call the core 4, right? We are, as human beings, we're made up of 4 domains of our life, right? It's body, being, which is relationship, purpose, fulfillment, God, balance, which when I say balance, that's referring to like relationships, right? With your wife, your kids, your parents, whatever that is, and then business, right? And notice money is only 25% of the whole equation. Right. It is. What's crazy is there's a process and a framework that I teach inside of Pivot that is how do you invest in all 4 of those areas every single day. Right. And that's what became the key, because I realized, okay, I can't just focus on money. I can't just focus on sending my wife flowers and taking her on dates every single night. And like, I can't just focus on that because then I lose the money. And that, well, shoot, I can't do that. And then but then I have to focus on my body, and it becomes very chaotic, right? It's like driving down the road without a map and trying to get somewhere. Like if you're just taking random roads, and you're like, well, shoot, that didn't get me where I wanted to go. Let's go back. And so this is really what it was. It just became a very simple. Like, this is what's crazy. I think most people, they think success is complicated, which is why they won't go after it. It's actually not complicated at all. What happens, though, is when you don't see results quick enough, i.e., you're like, don't see them in 2 weeks, you're like, well, I'm not going to do it, right? Or you're white knuckling your way through it, and you haven't tried to work on your mind the way your mind works. And because you don't work on the way your mind works, then the application never sticks, right? It's like the best example I've found in this. This is why inside of Pivot, I focus heavily on fitness. Like, it's a non-negotiable. Like, you're going to become fit. My clients become shredded. They just do. Not because I need them to be a fitness model, but because if you can exercise the discipline of daily action coupled up with consistency over time, you'll win. You'll win at anything.
And
right?
that's the basic formula for any achievement, anything in life, is consistency and of a right action.
Yep.
Right. That's basically
even though sometimes, bro, even if it's the wrong action, if you consistently take it, you'll see that it's the wrong action, and then you just pivot to a different direction. It doesn't mean you stop, right? God can't lead you if you're sitting on a couch watching Netflix and drinking beer.
Yeah.
Right? You can't, you're not moving. If you're not moving, and this is what's crazy, and a lot of us, we get so wrapped up in this perfection game of, well, it's not perfect, so I can't do it. Right? I don't know exactly what to do, so I'm just not going to do anything until I have it right or have it perfect.
Or overwhelmed. There's like so much things to do. Like, there's many, but it's like one thing at a time, daily, with the consistency is the key to the body you want, the relationship. Like, everything has that same formula, right?
Yep, everything does. Everything. It's not. That's why I say it is not complicated. So many people are looking for like the magic button. Right? They're like, what's the secret? What's the gold nugget? Right? Ask any millionaire, anyone who has created any real, true wealth or any true if their relationship's on fire, any of that, they're not going to tell you they're going to say the same thing. They'll say there is no gold nugget. There is no hack. There is no easy button. There is consistent work every day, and you just never quit.
For years.
Right?
Yeah.
Yep. For years and years. And that's how you get there. And I think we have a society right now, bro, that everybody is so immediate gratification. They want results now. And I've got a 20-year-old son, and that's how he is. He wants results now. He thinks at 20 years old he should have what I have.
Because in TikTok, they tell them, get rich with this TikTok. And also, I want to hear your thoughts about the law of attraction. Because I think that is, I believe in the law of attraction, but I think that in a way, it's also making people think that it's all about the mind, and they don't talk about the action. And it's like, what do you think about the law of attraction in general?
Did you ever see the movie The Secret?
Yeah, I've seen it tons of times.
Okay, yeah. When that came out, I loved it, man. That was like the greatest.
Yeah.
One of the examples in that, I was like, kind of didn't sit well with me because in the movie, if you remember, the kid was like wishes for a bike. If you remember that, he's like, "Oh, I want a bike," and put it in the universe, whatever. And then all of a sudden, Grandma and Grandpa show up the next day with the same bike, right? And it gave this false illusion that all I have to do is create a vision board, and that all I have to do is tell the universe what I want, and then I can still sit on the couch doing nothing, and it's somehow going to give it to me, right? And that was the disconnection in that. So I believe the law of attraction is 100%. 100. I manifest my life, everything. I visualize all the time. There's a home that I want here in Kauai. It's not the home I'm in. It's a beautiful home, but this is a resting spot. This is not my final destination by any stretch, because I'm still breathing. As long as I'm still breathing, I'm still growing. But there's a home that I want here. It's very expensive. I go to it about once a week. So I'll get in my car. I'll drive to the home. I use it as my own little meditation. I will go sit and park in front of this home, and I will look at the home. And it's going to be my home. Now, whether you believe that I'm going to live in that home, or I don't care who it is. I don't care what your opinion is, because like your opinion is your opinion. It's not even any of my business. I'm going to own that home. It's not for sale. I'm sure the people don't want to sell it, but I'm going to buy. So this is my version. This is how I utilize it. Like, I don't have vision boards in my house, and I don't do things like that. But I manifest through what I will see in my mind and go after the things that I want. right?
Coup-
Yeah.
Coupled with all the work to make it actually a reality.
Yep.
That's what I want to
That's
ask
the
you.
reminder, right? The
Yeah.
reminder is the vision board. The reminder is the thing. That's the reminder. And then when I leave there, it's back to the grind. It's like, that's right. Right. In order for me to pull that off, because the mortgage on the house that I want is going to be over 100,000 a month.
Wow.
That's the mortgage. That's the
Jesus.
payment. That's not the price of the home. That's the payment, right? So then I have to say, okay, this is a question that's really applicable. This would be very valuable for all your listeners, man. Who would I have to become? Is a question I started asking myself all the time. So when I would see things that I wanted, whether they were things like of money or the relationships or a body, right? I look at a picture of a bodybuilder and I'm like, man, right? Vision board, law of attraction, I want that. Who do I have to become to be the guy that would work hard enough to have that body? This would spend an hour and a half in the gym every day, would eat properly, would stop drinking alcohol. Who would I have to become? And that question has driven me past the law of attraction, right? Past the let me sit back and just wish these things into existence
Yeah.
and let me get forward and okay, that's what I want. Here's my targets. Now let's go.
I
Let's
call
go.
it the law of action, right? So
Yeah.
I want to ask you, because I also believe in the law of attraction, but in my personal opinion, it's maybe 5% of the formula, and then the other 95 would be doing the right actions, the consistency, the intelligence. That's my belief. What percentage do you think is in, what do you say the law of attraction in the formula of success? I mean,
Just law of attraction by itself, I think you're probably right on. I don't think it's off. But it depends what you would consider what I'm going to tell you. If you consider that part of the law of attraction, then I would say I think the numbers are more. But I think visions of what you want, the law of attraction, attracting, talking into the universe, right? It's a small portion. But the other part of that, which is action, but it doesn't seem like action, is the planning portion, right? It's creating radical targets. It's creating what's my year-end target for 2023, and then breaking that down to quarters, breaking it down to months, and then breaking it down to weeks.
yeah,
Right? I have a process that I run all of my clients through. My entrepreneurs, it's called the door. I call it the door because every week they're trying to knock down a door. But that door, meaning the actions they take for the week, are lined up to the door they're trying to open. We'll call it, right. They're trying to open up that door each week. But all of those doors every week for 52 weeks, they lead towards the target that they set for the end of the year.
yeah,
So this is where when you're talking about like correct action, because without the map, it is really hard to know what are you doing on what is today, Thursday. It's really hard to know what I'm doing Thursday. How is that getting me closer to the big vision board, the thing I'm putting out in the universe? How is that getting me closer to that? And that's why I think that's another place where a lot of people screw it up, because you can be busy and not get anything done, right? And be doing all the wrong things. So action for action's sake is stupid, right? So that's why you can take the law. So that's why I say I think your percentages are right on just the straight up vision board law of attraction side of it. But before you can start taking the actual action that's going to drive it, you got to know what action is the right action, and that takes time. Like you have to invest in that. That's usually the entry point for most of my clients is they'll come to a 2-day virtual event with me, and we literally create the vision for their life 12 months out, and then we break it all the way down to the micro level so that you know what you're doing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and there's an accountability, and you make sure that what you do matters.
yeah,
Right? Because
yeah.
there's so many things you could do, right? But should you be doing them? Are they actually going to matter?
Yeah. The way I see it is, it's basically the law of cause and effect. It's like if you want, like for you, for example, to be in this beautiful penthouse apartment where you have the piano, and there was all these causes that created that effect. So it's like when you have a vision of what you want to be, like there has to be the causes that lead up to it, which is all our daily actions. And I think that's kind of like 95% of it. Because even if you do everything right and your mentality is wrong, you're still gonna win because you did everything right and you pivoted and you were consistent. So even if you have the worst law of attraction mindset, but you do all the right things, it's gonna get you further than if you don't do those 95% of the things, and then you're just sitting there thinking that magically the cause and effect is just gonna like that's a law of the universe that we have to respect, like the cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect. And that's the right cause to the right effect. So it's like the right action will create the right effect. Right.
Yeah. Well, you know what's crazy too is you might start with the wrong mindset, right? You might have to white knuckle your way through it. But if you're doing what you're talking about, taking the right action consistently over time, it will change your mindset. You
Yeah.
won't think the same way, right? You do you go to the gym for 90 days straight every single morning, and you do a 45-minute hit workout or whatever it is you do, but you do that 90 days. The way you think from day one compared to day 90, 3 months in, dude, you're a radically different human being. Radically different. Like your thoughts are so, and this is what's interesting when somebody's just starting out, because it comes hard, right? Because there's such a big gap. Like let's say somebody's just starting their business and they want to be this, they want to be a billionaire, right? That's what I'm going for, right? That's my financial target, right? I don't know when it'll happen. It's not going to happen probably this decade, probably in my 60s. That's when I'm anticipating that happening. But that's what I'm going for, right? I'm not a billionaire. Like I don't even understand how they think, right? A billionaire could buy my home and the home that I want to buy and everything else with cash. They could just walk into my business. Here we go, right? So it's a different world. So same thing when that big gap. What happens with a new entrepreneur, someone who's just starting out in personal development or trying to become better, is they get paralyzed because they can't see how on earth they're going to pull it off. Do you know what I mean? It's like I can't see step 10. I can't even, I can, let alone me being a successful company, or me being in an amazing relationship, or me, truly walking and talking with God, like all those things. And if you can't see it, what happens? It paralyzes people to not even take any action.
Yes.
Right.
100%.
It's the craziest. And I fell in that space for those 5 or so years when I was in the darkest place of my life, where I didn't see how I could get out of it. I mean, it was wild, man. I remember thinking, I don't know what it would be like to not be drunk. But I had spent 20 years not being drunk, right? But of my life, right? My whole life up to that point. But now, after so many years into it, I was like, I don't even know how. And when I quit drinking, and that was a struggle. Obviously, it wasn't like I just made a decision once and I was like, hey, I'm done. But when it happened, I remember thinking that first weekend, I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how to function. Like, what do I do? How do I? Because everything, you know what I mean? And so it's just very hard. So it took a long time for me to get there and to take that action. But dude, it's that paralyzation, because you get too wrapped up in the vision.
Yep.
And you don't see that, what, if I just do this little thing today,
Yep.
that's enough. That's good.
Yep.
That, like, I don't need to become a millionaire tomorrow, like TikTok says.
People, I think a lot of people don't even try or even believe. They don't even consider, going for the dreams, because they have zero, they know that they don't have a way to get there, or they don't have, that's why I'm like obsessed with tracking things and having everything like systematized, so that I know that like I can depend on a system to carry me through there. Because if it's like, I think that's one of the things that a lot of people are missing. So I wanted to ask you, for the people listening, like how can they start, how can they I don't know, write down in a notebook or something, like what ways could they do practically to start moving in the right direction and have a belief in themselves that they can actually get there?
Yeah, perfect. So through that, when I was talking about the core four, and this is a process that I train in depth on it. So obviously I can't get into that here, but I'll give you kind of the framework and what they could literally take a book right now and start doing. But breaking up, if you're doing it on a notepad, write a big cross. I just write a cross, like section it off. So you have 4 different quadrants, and write body, being, balance, and business. Right? And I'll write those 4 inside of it. And then choose an action that you can take every single day in each one of those areas. The most simple form of it inside a body, sweat. Do something physical. Like, depends where your physical level's at, right? It could be as simple as, hey, maybe you haven't worked out at all for a long time, you're overweight, you have all these struggles. So get up and walk to the mailbox and back. Anything that's going to get your heart rate up, and typically about 20 minutes, right? Most people, that's a great window for them to do that. So whatever the activity is, so you sweat every single day, 7 days a week. Because this is not about being fit. This is not about, becoming a fit human. It's not about being shredded, a beast or whatever, but it's about moving your body, right? So this is a process for the body. So then into being, right, connection to God. I for years didn't meditate, and now I meditate multiple times a day. right? And for some people who've not meditated, you're like, well, that's weird and kooky, and why would I meditate? And I don't even believe in God or whatever. Blah. Believe it. It doesn't matter what you believe in or don't believe in. Meditation calms the mind. Right. And you can go to YouTube and YouTube a million different ways to meditate. Right. There's so much content out there that exists. Get the Mindspace app or Headspace app. Like there's so many different things you can do, but meditate. And I do it for 20 minutes every morning. Right. So it's a quick 20-minute meditation. And I'll kind of go through breath work. I'll do a Shaya meditation. There's different things that I'll do. I'll do mantras. But it's 20 minutes of meditation every morning. Then for my balance, what I do is so simple. This is like the simplest way you can turn around a relationship. Take your phone out and start to text one person every single day that is inside of your network of people you love, right? If you're married, it'd be your husband or your wife. And if you have kids, then it's them. Or if they're so young you can't text them, there's another hack on that. Could be your parents, could be your brother and your sister, like it could be business partners, could be whatever. You pick someone every single day and you send them a gratitude text. And all a gratitude text is you're just telling this person, I'm thankful for fill in the blank, right? And the craziest thing that happens when you start showing gratitude towards the people that you love, it starts to change the dynamic of the way you see them. They don't shift at all, right? They don't need to. You need to shift. Right? My love for my wife doesn't come because she does anything special out of the ordinary. Like I'm madly in love with my wife because I'm grateful for everything she does for me, everything she does in my life. I mean, from the simplest thing to a profound big thing, right? And this was an exercise over time that I developed. So that's the balance side. And then business, this one's super easy. And this is whether you're an entrepreneur, you have a job, doesn't matter what it is, you're going to listen to or read. Right? I don't read actual books. I listen to books on Audible. But every day for 15, 20 minutes, listen to something that's going to further your knowledge. Right? Whether it could be personal development, maybe you've got a rough mindset, you can want to develop that. That's your primary focus right now. So you buy a personal development book or it's a sales book. One of the books I'm rereading, I've read this book quite a few times, but it's Pitch Anything by Oren Croft. In my opinion, the greatest. There's a lot out there, but this is, I think, the greatest sales book for salespeople to learn how to sell people inside of frames that exists. It's like I said, it's called Pitch Anything. Oren Croft. All your listeners, pick it up. Like it'll be valuable for you. I don't care if you're not in sales, still be valuable for you because it's all about conversations and communication through frames. But read that for about 20 minutes. Right?
And so, can you recommend us a few other books, like personal development books that you like, maybe a few others?
Yeah, there's one called Strategic Seduction.
Okay.
And there's another one that I would called Expert Secrets. Expert Secrets is another really, really good one. And then another book that I want to say the Bible, but just scripture. Whatever scripture means to you, right? It could be what it is, whether you believe in God, don't believe in God, something that's enlightening your connection to source, right? Mm-hmm. That's what's going to be a huge, like it's just going to be huge for you, for you. So .com Secrets is also another great one. But those few right there would be super powerful in the mindset. There's a book called The Warrior Book, which is also a powerful book. So yeah, jot those down. All your listeners, jot those down as you go through them, and you can start there, and it's going to help you in all areas like that. That's going to develop this whole thing for you. Inside of that. But those 4 quadrants, man, and the easiest way to do it is I gamify it, right? I give myself points. So when I do my body, I give myself a point. When I do my meditation, there's another point. And so every day I have 4 quadrants, right? Body, being, balance, and business. I can get 4 points. So I know I won my day if I got 4 points. And then to take it a step further, what I call it is core 4 before you hit the door. This all happens in the morning. Right? For me, it's primary. My morning routine is very sacred. I get up at 4:30 in the morning, and I've got 4 hours. I take 4 hours to do what I just described for you. That's extreme. I get it. I'm an extreme person, but I want extreme results. So that's my time, right? I take that. That's my time. I'm going to go through my time, and it doesn't always take me 4 hours, but that's the time I block out. And there's times that I'll choose to not be in that window, but it's that 4-hour window where I'm doing body, being, balance, and business. So that by the time I start my day, I'm in power,
Hmm.
right? I'm not waking up sluggish, needing a cup of coffee to try to survive. No, I'm good to go, right? I'm like, no, I'm in power. I've got myself in power. Now when I step into my meetings, sales calls, conversations with my wife, my son, my daughter, like those things, I'm not reacting to things.
Hmm.
I'm actually that day I'm the powerful version. I like to consider that God puts what I call the divine reset every night. When you go
Hmm.
to bed, you could be like super powerful. The day was great, but when you go to bed, God like wipes the slate clean. It's like
Yeah. Yeah.
all that you did yesterday doesn't matter. You wake up this
Yeah.
morning, it's like God's like, okay,
Try
Brad, you
again.
had a great day yesterday. What are you gonna do today? And it's
Yeah.
like and that's a struggle, but that's a simple tactical. So hopefully that,
I love that.
I hopefully
I
that would
want to.
help. But that's a very simple way to implement personal development, and it's improving your mindset and your frame with your whole body. Like anybody can do that. You can do that
Yeah.
literally starting right now.
No, I love it. But I want to ask you one question. Do you? So you got the 4 points. Do you track like in a calendar, like every day, like +4, or how do you keep score? Like what is the? How do you do that?
The process, yeah. I actually use an app, right? There's
Mm,
an app, and if you can send your listeners over to it, but it's called the app is called Warrior.
mm,
It does have a pretty significant cost because it's a pretty involved app to have it. It's about $200 a month
okay.
to have access to this app. So what I would say is those of you who don't want to drop $200 on that, you don't need to. Just create a journal. Create a
Okay.
journal that's tracking it out, and you track it, and then you give yourself a weekly score, right? Right. It's very simple, right? Seven times four, right? So that's my score every single week, and I can get that score. So I get to the end of the week, and I know, okay, great. Well, Thursday I only got 3 points, so I'm off one. Okay, what can I do to adjust that? And you also know how your week went, right? So you got your daily score of 4, right? But then you got, okay, I can get 28 for the whole week. So, I ended up at a 26. That's great. But then maybe one week you're like, I was a 16. Not a good week. I've got to get back on track. So it helps you. It helps you track. That's why I gamify it. That's why
Hmm.
I put a number behind it. But yeah, you could just. You don't need the app. You could use the journal. I use the app for a lot of other things. So if you were trying to only track this, it wouldn't make sense to get the app.
Yeah. Can you remind us? So the 4 quadrants. Can you remind us each one in a little bit more detail? Because there's some that have like a few different areas in one, right? So can you
Yeah.
just
So
go over them
body.
again, please? Hmm.
Yeah,
Body.
body pretty simple, right? That's first
Just the.
quadrant. That's my
Yeah.
body, right? I get in
Just
my
the
body
body.
to sweat. Being, right? This is my connection to God, my purpose in life. It's the soul creation. I believe in God. If you don't believe in God, you're connected to universe, whatever it is. It's that quadrant, and you're doing a form of meditation or connecting to that purpose, right? It's basically shut your mind down. Shut your
Hmm.
mind, put some blindfold on, spend 20 minutes, learn how to meditate. One side note I'll give all your listeners, as probably the first 3 years I meditated, I don't think I was actually meditating. I was trying to meditate. Like meditation is a skill that must be learned. I've retreats. I've done a lot of work on that because when you can calm your mind down, you stop thinking like a crazy person, right? You
Hmm.
stop thinking that the world's going to end, and you stop thinking that the thing that just happened is going to wreck everything. And because when you get into chaos, panic, and anxiety, you make stupid choices, right? So meditation has been a huge key in me being able to not only rebuild my life, but build my life in a way that can't be taken from me, right?
Wow.
That is, it's iron. It's I have things in place that it can't be taken. The
So
market could turn, everything could go sideways, and it won't matter. My life is
so
my
it kind
life.
of bulletproofs your mind against the
Yep.
excuses and give you control of your own mind and your own BS
Yep.
and everything. Just because meditation basically is the practice of kind of shutting your mind down, which is also the ego.
Yep.
So it strengthens that power over your own self, which obviously is essential to business where you have all these different things that can happen and problems and even desires to quit. You can kind of
Mhm.
like not attach too much to the voice because of meditation, right?
Yep. 100%. 100%. It allows you to filter through all the bullshit that you shouldn't be listening to. All the voices in your head that are not the voice to listen to. Filters through it so you can just listen to the right one. Yep. So that's being
Yeah,
balance. This is relationships, right?
relationships.
Primarily, it's your core unit,
Hmm.
right? This is if you're married, it's husband, wife, and then if you have kids, the kids are involved. If you're single, then it's going to be like your parents, it could be your brothers and sisters, etc. It's the core people in your world. It could be friends, it could be best friends, right? If you've got a friend that's that close, but this is that one where you're making a deposit into them every single day, right? And at the first, and this is one thing that's interesting. When I first started doing this with my wife years ago, she thought it was weird at first. She's like, "Why do you keep sending me these?" She loved them, but she was like, "What's going on here?" Like, this is the weirdest thing ever, right? And I was just like, I just want you to know that I love you. Like, and I'm just finding all these ways that I love you. And she loved it, and it really was a game changer in her life. But it was also, so the people you send these to, it's going to come out of left field, right? So just expect that, right? It's going to come, and they're going to be like, well, that was random. I mean, I got to where I was investing in employees that worked for me. I got in strategic business partners that we had. They were like, it was really random. And so people that didn't always hear from me, and all of a sudden they're getting this message from me, how grateful I was for the thing they did 3 months ago or 3 years ago or whatever it was. And it's just the dynamic of my connection to other human beings is significantly increased. But that's the balance quadrant. It's the balance of, this is your life, right? These are your relationships. These are all the relationships. And then,
and even if people are, maybe that's too, just sending a message to somebody, it's already like a huge thing. Like if maybe they can build up to the sending the gratitude message by just messaging them, saying hi, and then kind of building it up, because I think even that is going to be like huge, right? Just
it could be. One thing I would say though is, in that space, it doesn't have to be a dramatic thing you're thankful for. But hey, thanks for being my friend. Right? That's not going to come across weird. It's like, hey, I was just thinking about you today, and remember that one time when we did da 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 da? That was pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.
Right? Simple stuff like that. It's not dramatic. You don't need to make it dramatic.
Some appreciation for them, basically.
Yep,
in whatever way.
Yep. And sharing a memory that the two of you shared together, whatever it is, and you're like, oh, it's really easy, because in these moments you're like, what could I have been grateful for them in that moment? And it's a simple lead-in saying, hey, Steve, I just want to say in this quick message, I was thinking you for some reason you were on my mind today. Remember back when we did da 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 da? I don't think I ever truly told you how grateful I was that you stepped in and helped. Mm-hmm. Thanks, man. Like, boom. It's like this simple little thing. And if you frame it the right way, it's not. I get the reservation. My suggestion, do it anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, just do it anyway. Just find it. But don't. This is what I coach all day long on, is helping create the mindset that you can get out of your own way with those limiting beliefs that, oh, this is scary. Oh, I don't want to do it. Oh, one of the things I always tell everybody, I'm like, great, do it scared.
Exactly.
So you're afraid to do it? Cool. Then you're going to do it afraid. That's okay. I'm still afraid. There's still things that I'm absolutely terrified of, and I just don't care. I'm just like, okay, turns out I'm going to do this with some cortisol inside of my body right now. All right, here we go. Let's go. Right? Yeah. It's just like everything else, is you got to just train yourself to be able to operate in that frame. But my suggestion, you could just say, hey, and just say what's up, but I think it needs to be coupled with just something of gratitude, because that's the whole. Yep, just appreciate them for something. Right? So that's balancing in business. Yeah, business is super simple, right? Whatever your industry is, learn something about it. Let's say you're an electrician, whether you own the company or you just work as an electrician for somebody else, increase your skill set by learning something, right? If you want a raise from your boss, don't just go to your boss and ask him for more money. Become worth more money, right? Learn something about your craft and then use it, right? Utilize it. Become more skilled. Become better. So as an entrepreneur, it's easy because I can make more money if I become more skilled, right? The better I can become at, for any entrepreneur, sales and marketing, right? The better I become at sales and marketing, the more money I make, which means the more value I provide for the world, the more clients that come in, right? It's this reciprocity back and forth. So hence the reason I'm studying sales. Even though I have literally read that book probably 20 times with Warren Croft, Pitch Anything, at least. But I'm going back through it. I'm like, okay, and because I'm a different person, that book hits me differently. There's different things that I'll hear differently now than I did the last time I read it, right? And so it's just this constant game of investing in that. And just make sure it's relative. It's relevant as to, right? That it actually makes sense for your industry, right? I'm not going to read up on how to be an electrician if I'm not an electrician, right? If I'm not a musician and I'm not trying to, run an Avid soundboard, then there's no reason for me to go watch videos and read up on how to how to run an Avid soundboard, right? It doesn't make sense for me to do that. But for my sound engineer, when I had my production company, that absolutely makes sense for him, right? That would be something he would need to learn. He increased his skill level. Now all of a sudden he can run sound for bigger shows. He's more skilled, and I can hire him for different shows, pay him more money, etc. Right? So just make sure whatever you're reading in the balance or the business quadrant actually is relevant to what you're trying to do. If not, it's kind of like the exercise when we were talking earlier on the show, right? Make sure you're doing the right thing. Right? Action just to take action is not useful, but action to actually drive the needle is useful.
Got it. Thank you. So I want to wrap up with this by asking you a question, and at the same time asking you to tell us about, your coaching. I want you to tell us the importance of coaching, how you've seen people have benefit from your coaching, what services you offered, how is your methodology, and then of course at the end, where they can find you. So yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So I hired the importance of coaching, I think, is imperative. I think anyone trying to do this without a coach or a mentor is an idiot. So I'm going to say it. Now, every coach is not good for every person, and there's different things you might need coaching on. It's kind of like the same thing with therapy. I think everyone needs to go to therapy. Therapy is not because you're broken. Therapy is because you want to become more. That's it. Right? It's the same thing with a coach, right? Why would you choose to reinvent the wheel when someone literally has already done it? Right? It's the weirdest thing. So I finally got this because I was pretty arrogant when I was younger because I made so much money and I thought I could do it again. But as I was digging out of my pit, I realized I couldn't. And I remember first coach I hired was $5,000. It was $5,000 for a 4-day event. So I paid $5,000 to show up to this 4-day event, and it changed my life. Not because of what happened in the event, but that was like the first starting point of me realizing I needed to surround myself with people who had been where I was trying to go. Right? They already had the map. I didn't need to create the map. And it took a lot of the stress and the pressure out for me in that space. Since then, I mean, I've spent probably $150,000 on coaches and mentors. My current coach that I have right now, I paid him $15,000 for 6 phone calls, right? Because I needed what he knows. He knows something that I don't know. And I'm like, okay, cool. And he's got a program. And his program was just, hey, we'll jump on a call, see where you're at, and I'll help guide you through this. And I'm like, done, because I'm very aware now what the value is, right? It cost me $15,000 for a coach. My return on that will be multiple 6 figures, like multiple 6 figures into the 7 figures for sure. Just because he helped me get a roadmap that I didn't have. And I could have spent 3 or 4 years getting the roadmap, or I could have 6 phone calls with him in the space of 2 months and get it. Right now, like I didn't have to take the time. So yeah, coaching, I think if you truly want a high level of success, find yourself a coach, find yourself a mentor, someone who has done what you want, someone you resonate with, someone that you're like, you can get behind and you can become part of their tribe, and then surround yourself with other high level people trying to do what you're trying to do, right? Don't hang out. You are a sum of who you hang out with. If you hang out with a bunch of broke ass people, have no money, no drive, no ambition, you are a lunatic if you think you're going to somehow just rise above them and still hang out with them. It won't happen. It won't work, right? So it's like, yeah, it's not even possible. So making sure you're in the right. So from coaching, yeah, dude, I will never not have a coach. So you can take that from me. And I have had lots of success, right? From the outside, you'd be like, well, what do you need a coach for? I'm like, because I'm just me. I'm where I'm at. For me to become a billionaire, the version of me that's talking to you right now, bro, he's got to die. Like probably 100 times over. Which means there's the new paths are going to be created over and over and over. I need someone to guide me through it because I'm aware coaching's not an expense, it's an investment. And if you can't invest in yourself, like if you don't believe in you to pull it off, you just won't pull it off. Right? And so that's how I look at it from the coaching side. And then what I do, I work with a pretty specific type of person. It's entrepreneurs primarily. It doesn't have to be. Sometimes it'd be high-level executives. Or people, but usually it's people that can control their income, whatever level that is. Or the other exception is people who are in a corporate job who are trying to make the jump to entrepreneurship, right? They want to become an entrepreneur, and again, clearly the roadmap is very tough. It's very hard. I had to figure it out on my own because I didn't have a coach in my first company, or even into my second company. But then I hired a coach to help me navigate and actually explode the companies and actually do well with them. Ultimately selling them and 6-7 figures payouts, and it was that was that game. But you've got to have you've got to frame it up and have that. But what I do is I work with those entrepreneurs that are high level, and we have a lot of different product offerings in the way we do it. But truly, it comes down to how do I help get you from the version of you right now to the version you want to become. Right, back to the vision boarding conversation earlier. Like we create those maps, and then I'll hold you accountable to the frame to get them. That's it. I'll walk you down the process. And I don't teach you or train you on anything I haven't done. I literally I built my framework off of what I did, and my results are inarguable. And I've got hundreds of clients whose results are also inarguable on what this process and what it does. So it's true. It's a framework, because I'm not arrogant enough to think that what I do is the only option out there. There's lots of options for people. If you have to find your coach, find your thing, right? But that's really in essence what I do. More information on how you can follow me, all social platforms, Instagram, Facebook are the primary ones where I hang out on. I'm very active on there. And then my website is powerthepivot.com. So that's powerthepivot.com. And I call my company Pivot because life is all about the pivots. Pivots, when you make the correct pivots in life, that's where millions are made. That's where relationships are saved. This is where, when you finally have that declaration, like I did years ago, when I just knew I could not stay this way or I would die. Like that was a critical pivot that if I didn't make that pivot, I'd have been dead a decade ago. Right. And so there's just this whole, it's just a powerful way to do it. But yeah, I mean, and I do a lot of cheap entry level, very inexpensive. There's a lot of free training that I have. So it doesn't cost a ton to work with me. But I do have some expensive programs for those guys who are in that space and ready to do that. When they're ready to accelerate to that level, we work one-on-one, all the way into group coaching. So a lot of different offerings, but yeah, you can find all that information out through my socials and then on my website.
No, I mean, it's amazing because I gotta admit that I'm amazed by I see the person in front of me and I remember everything you've told me, and it's like it's quite amazing. Like the person you are now is like just you're shining, you're happy, you're successful, you're full of wisdom, and then to know that you came from this super low point in your life. So it's insanely inspiring, and everybody that's listening, you can be the next Trevor. Everybody has that kind of like a higher self, more no matter how how dark, because you Trevor, you were like literally lost everything. You went through the most difficult things a human being can go. On top of that, alcoholism, like all these things, and look at you now, and it's amazing. So I mean, it's extremely inspiring. I want everybody to go and check out your website, and it's amazing that you have different tiers where because not everybody can spend like $15,000 on a coach, right? So it's great that you have those kind of levels. And thank you so much for being here today, man. It was such a pleasure to speak to you. And
it's my honor, man.
Thank you so much, and yeah, I hope everybody can go check out your website, and we'll keep in touch.
All right, brother. I appreciate you having me on, man. One final thing I want to say to everybody.
Please.
You are capable of doing this. 100%. One thing I want you to know about me, I am average. I'm just a normal dude. I don't have anything special. I have nothing that you don't have. Like literally nothing. I'm not smarter than you. I'm actually probably dumber than you. Most of you listening are probably smarter than me. I make lots of mistakes all the time. I fail constantly. I just don't quit. All right, so the only difference is I just stopped quitting. But you are 100% capable. 100%. 100. If the life you want is literally within reach, even if you can't see it, you can't feel it, it feels like it's eons away. Like you just got to start. And if you'll start and then just don't ever stop, like you'll be sitting where I'm sitting. You will have what you want. And what I have may not be what you want. That's okay. You got to go after what you want. So I just wanted to point that out. Kind of a final statement is just, I'm an average dude. I am not special at all. There's nothing special about me. Like we kind of live in this world where we think, oh, people that have figured stuff out, they must be special. No, we're not. We're just as insecure. We have the same fears that you do. I have the same fears that all of you do. I promise you. I promise you. Half the mornings I wake up, I don't want to do what I have to do that day. 2 days ago, woke up. I did not want to get out of bed. I did not want to go to the gym. But the difference is I still did. right? So that's a big, that's kind of the big, the exclamation point, we'll call it,
Yeah, no, it was,
on the call today, man.
thank you so much. Yeah, believe in yourself. It's all in you, and if you can get a coach, then it's almost like it's almost like a kind of guarantee. I think that in a way,
Mhm.
because a coach is gonna be with you. Because what's gonna stop you from getting to your success is gonna be the temptation to quit or the mistakes. So if a coach can fix all that in a way, it's almost like bulletproofing your roadmap to success, right?
Yep, 100%.
So
Couldn't agree more.
if you can't afford a coach, save up, but it's definitely the best investment you could do, and it's gonna pay out itself maybe 1,000 times, maybe 1,000,000 times, who knows. So, thanks so much, Trevor, and we'll speak to you soon.
All right, perfect. Thank you. Appreciate you.
By myself all the time, it's hard to believe that I'm seeking on the lady I love. Just because she knows that she has me for no reason or rhyme, it's hard to believe that I'm speaking of the lady I love. Think she's doing me a favor just because she holds my hand. And I admit that I consider it a favor when she does. Oh, but it's grand. Just because I gave her my heart, have I committed a crime? It's hard to believe that I'm speaking of the lady I love.